Ontario recently extending its infectious disease emergency leave. What is it and how will it impact workers? With more on that, we're joined by employment lawyer Alex Lucifero. Alex, first of all, I guess in simple terms, explain what infectious disease emergency leave is.
Sure. Afternoon, Matt. So last year, in the spring of last year, our provincial government in Ontario introduced this infectious disease emergency leave. It's effectively akin to a layoff related to COVID, and lots of employers placed employees on this infectious disease emergency leave, on these temporary layoffs. And lots of trouble has ensued because for the most part, Matt, these temporary layoffs, these infectious disease leaves are potentially illegal. An employee doesn't have to accept a temporary layoff like this, except for in the rare occasion. We can think of certain industries like restaurants, etc., where employers have had no choice but to lay off their employees. Lots of other sectors have remained open, remained active and busy. And in those kinds of situations, these kinds of layoffs are not allowed.
Okay, so what does that mean to, and what does it mean for the recent extension now to, as well with this, and what does it mean for employees that are on a layoff?
Sure. So for those employees that have accepted this infectious disease emergency, that they've accepted these temporary layoffs, or as another example, perhaps an employee who has a temporary layoff term in their contract of employment. So if a temporary layoff provision is actually written into their contract, these employees will have to continue these leaves up until September 25th. So the layoff period, the infectious disease period, has been extended from ending July 3rd, which it was scheduled to end on, up until September 25th. Now, for those employees who have not accepted or choose not to accept these leaves of absence, Matt, the extension doesn't matter. You can still enforce your rights as an employee and treat the layoff potentially as a termination. For those employees that have chosen not to accept the layoff, the extension doesn't matter all that much.
Okay, now for you as well, employees can pursue, it's a constructive dismissal as well. Just explain that quickly.
That's exactly correct. Yes. So when I say an employee can refuse the layoff and treat it as a termination, we are talking about a constructive dismissal.
Got it.
A constructive dismissal is a fancy way of saying an employee does not agree and will not agree to a significant or substantial change to the terms of their employment. And certainly sending an employee home, treating them as temporarily laid off, is a significant change to the terms of an employee's employment. You're effectively telling that employee you're not going to be able to earn money or work at all. That is a breach of contract, effectively, or again, what's called a constructive dismissal.
Makes sense. Alex Lucifero, appreciate your time, especially on these matters. Thank you for this, sir.
Pleasure for having me.